Hey guys, how's it going? Well, today we've got a new series starting. It's on the Academy Stuart tanks. These came out a number of years ago, and I've had them in my stash since then, collecting dust. And you know what? I finally decided, that's it. Let's build them. And that's what we're going to do. So, of course, first thing we're going to work on is the suspension parts, and let's get into it. The M3 Stuart was an American light tank of World War II. An improved version of the tank entered service as the M5 in 1942 to be supplied to British and other Commonwealth forces under Lend-Lease prior to entry of the U.S. into the war. Afterwards, it was used by U.S. and Allied forces until the end of the war. The British service name Stuart came from the American Civil War Confederate General Jeb Stuart and was used for both the M3 and the derivative M5 light tank. Unofficially, they were also often called Honeys by the British because of their smooth ride. In U.S. use, the tanks were officially known as Light Tank M3 and Light Tank M5. Stuarts were first used in combat in the North African campaign. About 170 were used by the British forces in Operation Crusader, which occurred in November and December of 1941. Stuarts were the first American crewed tanks in World War II to engage the enemy in tank versus tank combat, when used in the Philippines in December 1941 against the Japanese. Outside of the Pacific War, in later years of World War II, the M3 was used for reconnaissance and screening. So here you can see I'm cleaning up all the parts once they've been separated from the sprue tree. I've already glued the springs into their holders, and those will be attached on the inner side of the arms. And then once those are in place, the early style spoked wheels will be inserted into them as well. I didn't impart any damage onto the tires, but that's one thing you might want to consider for any aging or weathering that you want to do. For cleaning up wheels, I like using something that's got a little bit of give, like a sanding sponge. If I were to use a file or a sanding stick or something like that, the opportunities for making flat spots is greatly increased. So, I'm working my way down from a heavier grit and, getting into a smaller grit as it goes along. I just don't want any obvious sand marks. This is a thing that I buy on Amazon, but you can get it at other places like London Drugs or any drugstore. It's basically what women buy to use on their fingernails, and it's got 4 different levels of grit, starting off with a fairly rough one and then progressively getting into a finer grit, and then finally there is like the number 4 is for polishing. And it actually works quite well. I buy these like in a bundle of about 6 or 7. Okay, here you can see what we have is the support arms for the wheels. And they need a little cleanup as well, where they were attached to the sprue tree. All right. So how does this go? Let me take a look. Is there any difference on either side of the hub? Doesn't appear to have any differences. So let's just put those on. And we sandwich those in between this part here and the front plate. Just a little glue holds everything in place. The wheels are free spinning. And that makes a pretty quick setup there. So we'll do that with all 4 of these suspension parts. All right, at this point, we're going to start getting into the idler wheels. So we'll be cutting off the support arms, and these are the open-spoked idler wheels from the early version. And as per the road wheels, I'm now cleaning up the seam line using a sanding sponge. So I think the surface is metallic. There's no rubber on this part in real life, so I think that's going to be a metallic sheen, perhaps. So now that we've got that one side done, we carry on with the other side's idler wheel assembly. The next step is to add the previous assembly of the vault springs and the horseshoe-shaped arms that attach to the other parts. And it's a very straightforward, easily done assembly. The Stuart M3 was an American light tank used during World War II. Here are 10 major design points of the Stuart M3 tank. Number 1. Armament. The Stuart M3 was equipped with a 37mm M6 main gun, along with several 30 caliber Browning M1919A4 machine guns for anti-infantry and anti-aircraft purposes. 2. Armor. Its armor was relatively light compared to other tanks of the era, with thickness ranging from 0.5 to 1.5 inches, or 13 millimeters to 38 millimeters. This made it vulnerable to enemy anti-tank weapons. 3. Crew. The tank typically had a crew of 4: commander, gunner, loader, and driver. The crew arrangement allowed for efficient operation during combat. 4. Mobility. The Stuart M3 was highly mobile, powered by a Continental W670-9A 7-cylinder air-cooled radial gasoline engine, which provided a top speed of around 36 miles per hour, or 58 kilometers per hour. 5. Suspension. It featured a vertically volute spring suspension system, which provided good cross-country performance and enabled the tank to traverse rough terrain more effectively. 6. Size. The Stuart M3 was relatively compact, measuring about 14 feet or 4.27 meters in length, 7.4 feet or 2.25 meters in width, and 7.7 feet or 2.36 meters in height. 7. Versatility. Despite its light armor, the Stuart M3 was versatile and was used for reconnaissance, infantry support, and exploitation roles due to its speed and agility. 8. Communication. The tank was equipped with radio communication capabilities, allowing for effective coordination with other units on the battlefield and enabling better tactical maneuvers. 9. Amphibious capability. Some variants of the Stuart M3 were equipped with features allowing them to operate in amphibious assaults, enhancing the tank's utility in various combat scenarios. 10. Production and variants. The Stuart M3 underwent several modifications and upgrades during its production, resulting in various subtypes such as the M3A1 and M3A3. Production numbers exceeded 13,000 units, highlighting its importance to Allied armored forces during World War II. As you can see, the suspension parts assembled quite easily, and there was no problem at all. The fit of the support arms was really amazing. The general fit of this kit is really good. this is part 21, and I'm not exactly sure what this is. It looks like a radio or something, and it's supposed to go right here. And there's no real markings of where it needs to go. I may hold it off and paint it, because painting it sideways might be a little difficult. I ended up not really painting much of the interior except in a very rudimentary way, as the details that Academy gives you on the interior are rather rudimentary in their own right. So basically, I've just painted the interior white. I didn't spend any time doing any chipping or aging, and because I just wanted to have something that you could see through the front driver's hatches, and nothing much more than that. The M3 Stuart light tank, named after Confederate General Jeb Stuart, was an American armored vehicle that played a significant role during World War II. Here's a history of the M3 Stuart. 1. Development. In the 1930s, as tensions rose in Europe, the United States recognized the need for modernized armored vehicles. The M3 Stuart emerged from the need for a light tank that could support infantry and reconnaissance missions. 2. Design. The M3 Stuart was designed by the American Car and Foundry Company and entered production in 1941. It featured a riveted hull, a turret armed with a 37mm M6 gun, and several .30 caliber Browning machine guns. Its armor thickness ranged from 0.5 to 1.5 inches. 3. Deployment. The M3 Stuart saw action in various theaters of World War II, including North Africa, the Pacific, and Europe. Its mobility, speed, and versatility made it well suited for reconnaissance and infantry support roles. 4. North Africa. The M3 Stuart made its combat debut with British and Commonwealth forces in North Africa. During the early stages of the Desert Campaign, it faced off against German and Italian armored units, often engaging in fast-paced maneuver warfare. 5. Pacific Theater. In the Pacific, the M3 Stuart proved invaluable in island-hopping campaigns against Japanese forces. Its ability to navigate jungle terrain and provide fire support to infantry units was crucial in battles across the Pacific Islands. 6. European Theater. The M3 Stuart also served with American forces in Europe, including the North African and Italian campaigns. However, by the time of the Normandy invasion in 1944, it was largely replaced by newer, more heavily armored tanks like the M4 Sherman. 7. Variants. Throughout its production run, the M3 Stuart underwent several modifications and upgrades, resulting in variants such as the M3A1 and M3A3. These variants featured improvements in armor, firepower, and reliability. 8. Allied and Axis use. Besides its service with American and British forces, The M3 Stuart was also provided to Allied nations under Lend-Lease agreements. Some captured Stuarts were also used by Axis forces, particularly by the Germans, who repurposed them for various roles. 9. Post-war service. After World War II, the M3 remained in service with several countries around the world. It saw action in subsequent conflicts, including the Korean War and various conflicts in the Middle East. 10. Legacy. Despite its relatively light armor and limited firepower compared to later tanks, the M3 Stuart played a crucial role during World War II. Its contribution to reconnaissance, infantry support, and exploitation missions helped shape armored warfare tactics for decades to come. Today, surviving examples of the M3 Stuart can be found in museums and private collections, serving as a reminder of its place in military history. These are the ammo storage units that come with the kit, and as you can see, they're rather basic and rudimentary in design. I didn't really spend too much time trying to get it perfect or realistic in the end, because you really can't see much anyways, and details just are not worthy of spending that much time with them. But there is something there, and if you look through the front hatches, well, you might be able to see something, but yeah, probably not that much. Okay, here I'm building the central island that sort of covers the drive shaft from the engine in the back to the transmission in the front. And it went together without too many problems. The bottom part just didn't seem to want to cooperate with me, but I won out in the end. These seats were a bit of a ongoing issue because it's just not really clear how to mount the back of the seat. At first I tried putting it up against the cushion, but it didn't seem to fit properly, and then I tried putting it on the back, and that didn't seem to fit properly. Like, there just seems to be the curve of the back of the chair doesn't seem to fit either the structure, like the rim of it, or the cushion. And yeah, it was just an ongoing, what the heck? And I ended up, I think, going with this situation here where I put it all the way up with the cushion. Use the most minimal amount of glue for these. So one thing I often do is, for placing stuff like this, instead of cutting it off and then struggling with it, I'll just keep it on the sprue. I think with this one I can actually cut it here and cut that one there. It's almost like a handle, and you can just drop that on there. Damn. Okay. These are the lenses that go in those headlights, and I've got maybe a clever idea. I'll show you later what I want to do there. All right, we got this part here. You know, any of you out there who like to do a little bit more work and get some finesse, this part here could maybe be improved with a bit of a screen, because all that's represented is in plastic and it's solid. But I chose not to bother with it on this build, and I'll just run a wash in that grill and it should look okay. These headlight protection cages are slightly overscale, of course, in thickness because it's an injection molded kit. Let's see if I can do this one with less foul up here. So E23. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly, but I think that grab handle I just put on was the wrong sized one, and I think I address it again later. I have to switch it out with another one, I believe. Not the right one. Okay, I think we're at a good place to take a break and wrap this video up. I hope that it might have shown you some insight into this kit from Academy. It's a pretty straightforward build. It's not the most detailed kit in the world, but it actually is pretty good. In any case, in the meantime, and in between time, that's another edition of Jet Scale Models. Y'all come back now, you hear?